All right, we'll call the Selectmen's meeting to order at 7:05. Selectmen's meetings are subject to being videotaped. Your image and voice may be recorded. Actually, will be recorded. And your public hearing scheduled for 7:15, so we'll chug away at a few other things until the appointed hours.
Skip over the minutes. I've been in Ontario for a few days.
Okay. All right.
There's one set though. It's the last meeting, actually, the 23rd.
I haven't had a chance to look at
Okay.
them yet, so. Okay. We have an approval of the bituminous concrete contract to Brock's Industry and an unsuccessful bidder letter to Mass Broken Stone. This was the result of a tie in the first run, and we asked the entities to resubmit. Did Mass Broken Stone actually resubmit it?
They didn't,
They
so it's
decided
only
not to.
one rebid.
Okay.
He was what, a penny difference?
10 cents.
10 cents.
10 cents, all right. So the successful bid is $70.90 a ton.
So moved.
Okay,
Second.
all right, all those in favor of issuing both of those letters?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, that's for your, all right. And we have a common victualer's license for Subway down at the mall. I take a motion to approve it.
So moved.
Second.
Any comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And it's the second day of March. Nice to see February in the rearview mirror. Okay, do we have to sign anything except for this?
Only the top.
Oh, okay. We have a note here from the town accountant. This involves the,
Touching up that escrow money to pay town council
Okay.
and to reimburse the selectmen for part of the cost of the special town meeting.
okay. So this is, this will move it from the escrow to the selectmen's expenses, the amount of $107.20 for the US Post Office. Oh, so this is, sorry.
We
That
overcharged
we owe them,
them
yes. These are
inadvertently.
two amounts that were in excess for those two items. So we're returning $107.20, attending to the bulk mailing, and we're refunding $816, representing an overcharge for the town council.
Oh, no, that's actually, and that is going into reimburse town council because that's.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
sorry. I got it. So that is for the payment of town council. All right,
So moved.
Second.
any further comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, this is, the next is Sun Edison legal expense payments. They have made the payment now, is what?
They paid the $5,000 per the contract,
Mhm.
but I don't have yet Copeland and Page's breakdown between the assessor leaving.
Uh-huh.
We never got that, but Copeland and Page is working on that. June says that she would keep the entire $5,000 and put it into the general fund if that's what you wish, or take a portion and repay town council if that's what you wish. So that letter on the top is if you wanted to keep the entire 5,000. Otherwise, she's gonna
Right.
treat it like the Dunkin' Donuts money and refund any monies that we had not spent.
No, I mean, I think this is a contractual payment of $5,000. There's no escrow.
I think it's different. But she
Yeah.
wanted you, so that letter on top, if you sign it, would be a statement to her saying it's a $5,000
I got
contractual
it.
payment.
Yep. All right, so the section of the agreement says, upon execution of this agreement, the developer shall pay to the town by bank or certified check or wire transfer the amount of $5,000 representing payment of expenses incurred by the town in negotiation of this agreement. So it just seems to be a contractual payment to me.
Do you want a portion of that KP shows us went towards that negotiation? Actually, would that year, would that be, that's a prior fiscal year. I guess it just goes to the general fund then.
Yeah, because if we
Yeah.
run short on council money, that's where we'll go to get, that's where we're going to get money anyway.
You need to move?
Well, it'll go back, but it's not, because it's not certified free cash. We
No,
can't
that's right,
use
no,
it.
eventually. Yeah. Okay. You have any feeling about that?
Nope.
Okay. All right, okay, so take a vote to indicate to June to take this $5,000 into general funds.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Any further comments or questions? Hearing none, I'll take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
We'll do the data systems budget afterwards.
Let's just skip that one.
Oh, okay, well, we can do that beforehand then. All right.
And why don't you get the common vitular?
Yes. There you go. And we'll defer from you. I'm just looking for anything. I think we'll just hang out for a couple minutes because I don't see anything else that we can discuss in 2 minutes. But, well, we can actually. We haven't heard anything from Worcester Sand and
I have.
Gravel.
Did we hear anything from Worcester
Not
Town?
unless he, no message. They said he'd gone home for the day, but he wasn't expected back.
Okay.
And I left him a message today.
What I'd suggest is, if you give him a message that, I think if we go without hearing from him by next meeting, we should tell him that we're going to reboot the process, that if he has an interest in
Yeah, I'll tell him.
discussing an expedited continuance of it, he needs to let us know by Monday, okay?
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
All right,
Doesn't
so otherwise
have
we
much
can get it
interest
up.
in it.
Yeah.
It does seem to be burning.
Well, I
up a
don't
bit.
think that, I suspect that given the character of the terrain right now, nobody's moving any gravel around.
Right.
So what is number 6? Is this the supply?
Yeah, I was gonna talk
Aggregate.
about that afterwards, I didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Okay.
thought we.
That's not the aggregate, that's just our,
That, yeah, that's the one that I looked at.
okay.
But I didn't think I could do that one in 2 minutes, so I,
Okay. I still haven't gotten any numbers from them.
okay. All right, I'll put that in there so we remember.
Quarter past.
Yeah, I think it's
Close
close enough for government work, and that's what this is. We're going to start a public hearing regarding the storage of explosives and inflammable materials at Cabela's at 44 Highland.
Can I just
Commons.
ask for the green cards, whoever has them?
Yeah. I don't have them all yet. I
Carol
think
sent
Carol
some.
sent some,
Some.
and then there was, I think there were 63 abutters.
Okay, she says I think she
And I
thinks
think
the
there's-
8 are missing.
8, I think there's 23 people.
I'll just put it on the list.
'Cause we sent signature required plus the return.
Hmm.
We sent them air mail.
We got one.
And then I think we have like 8 that we didn't even get the
Anything.
signature required back.
Just so you're aware, Tom.
And I think Carol sent you also the paper.
I have that,
Okay.
the notice for him, yep.
Well, does the proponent want to begin by indicating sort of briefly what we're licensing here and the activities, just so people have a sense of that?
Okay, yeah. Bell is, as you guys know, is a retail environment store. We sell smokeless propellant, primers, ammunition to hunters for basically reloading. And then we will also have some like propane, isobutane for some of the camp stoves. What am I missing, Mike?
Just miscellaneous.
Yeah.
miscellaneous,
Yeah, not much else.
Some
There's-
scent materials that also fall in the category of being listed.
Do you sell black powder?
No,
No.
not in this store, we do not. There's 2 stores that we do, not this one. It's a black powder substitute, which is classified by the ATF as the same as smokeless propellant. so. And it's all in 1-pound containers per the International Fire Code. And at PA 495, they're pretty much identical except for this display of it.
Okay. And roughly, what is the volume that you store at any given time?
The smokeless propellant will be in cabinets of, there'll be no more than 400 pounds per cabinet with a total of 3 cabinets. So the most we'd ever have of smokeless propellant is 1,200 pounds.
And is that consistent with your other locations?
Yeah, anywhere from 800 to 1,200 is what we have in those locations. And then the primers, we have the max that will ever be in the store is 750,000 individual ones. They're usually packed in, I think, 100 or 1,000 selling packets. And then the ammunition, that will be quite a bit more than that.
Okay.
And that most of that ammunition is in individual boxes.
Mhm.
I think it's 20 to 25 shells per box. And then there is some bulk ammo, but not that much. And when I say bulk ammo, that's probably be like 200 rounds in a box.
Mhm. And I presume that your method of storage and everything is pretty well standardized across your stores, is that correct?
Yeah, merchandise kept on the floor, and merchandise stocked in the back warehouse.
Mhm.
Standard in both stores, they're all stores.
And I presume that those methods have been successful and you haven't had any difficulties with them, is that correct?
That's
Find
correct.
some wood, we have never had an issue.
All right.
Bruce, have you gone down and gone through all the storage things in the?
Yeah, they can't physically have anything in the facility until they get the license to begin with. However, I've gone through the application. It's very comprehensive, how they're gonna store it, the standards that they're using, the MFPA standards, both for 58 for the propane and the 495, as he indicated, are not only national standards, but they also are keeping with what the ATF is looking for, and also what the building code requires and
Okay.
the fire code in Massachusetts. The amount they have on display is all outlined in these documents as to how it could be displayed, distances between the different products based on the type they are, et cetera.
You're comfortable with it
I'm
all?
very comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like you've done this before.
All right. Any questions from the board? Any questions from the public or? Okay. I actually have a question. Looking at the license, it indicates that there's a listing of, and pardon me, because we haven't done this one before, so. It indicates that there should be a product name and a class.
Yeah, that's all in their application, they submitted that, and that
Right.
will be appended to the license.
Okay.
Mary and I were talking about earlier today,
Okay.
and I will go over with the applicant to make sure that we categorize the solids in the right categories, and fill in those blanks, but
Okay.
this whole list will be appended to the license.
So when this is issued, it will say per details and attached application, is that?
That's right, there's a section in there where you're supposed to list.
Yeah, that's what I was asking
Right,
about.
and
Yep.
it'll say per the attached.
Okay,
Right.
okay. And you're content that that list is representative and accurate?
Well, sure. Other than me going through the inventory and saying, show me each one
Yeah,
of these.
no,
Plus keep in mind that anything that they ship in or out, whatever, is all is all subject to ATF oversight in addition to
Mhm.
mine and the state. Also, the state fire marshal, I'll be calling him in because he'll be putting a tag, a stick-on tag that they put on the magazines as the storage, as it's called, the storage units.
Mhm.
And they're subject to inspection by them annually too.
Okay. Okay. And you have sufficient information, because it indicates, maximum amounts of
Yes.
the various classes and
Yep.
the number of magazines, so that you would
Yes.
have sufficient information to fill all of that in.
What are the maximums? You told us what you're gonna have, what are the maximums? That-
Well, I asked him to list the maximum they might have at any one time, realizing that as you get down in product, you're gonna order more. So I
Sure.
said, at any one time, you wanna make sure that your license covers, and then you bring 70%, and all of a sudden
Right.
you're over your limit. So he can't exceed the limits that he indicates in his application.
And so you feel that you know what you've asked for, what's appropriate here, and we have that information to fill it in, okay?
And I believe it's in the documents that I provided in the application.
Okay, okay. And I presume because there's nothing here that you're not requesting any additional
There,
restrictions?
once a license is issued, there are no permits issued. If it was a lower quantity, there wouldn't be a license, there would just be permits issued. You could, if you wanted to, put on there that that includes an annual inspection by the fire department. I will be doing one anyways, the state will be doing one anyways, but it's just that if you wanted to feel more secure, you could put that on there, but it will be done annually as part of.
Is
my
that
ongoing
required by the applicable law in Massachusetts? Is that why?
Yeah, the law, when a license is issued, there are no permits. I double-checked with the marshal's office today to make certain on that.
So we issue a license, but you actually give them the permit.
No.
No, there is no
No?
permit.
There is no
We issue the
permit.
license, and then they're
It's in lieu
licensed
of-
to do
It's in
it.
lieu of a permit.
Okay.
It sort
But-
of supersedes.
Yeah. And what I was asking, and I understood that, but what I was asking was, does the law provide for annual inspection?
The law allows me to walk into the store anytime during normal business hours, do an inspection. I can request that they show me their inventory, et cetera, at
Mhm.
any given time.
Okay. So that really wouldn't need to be an additional restriction?
No, it wouldn't need to be, no.
I don't,
If anybody's crossed the Ts and dotted the Is, it would be the fire chief, so.
yeah, no, and I think, yeah, I'm not interested in putting
We're pretty confident.
additional requirements that don't really,
No,
that don't really mean
Felt
anything,
any
so.
insecurities, that's all.
Mhm. Okay. That might be something we'd ask of the fire department. You just told me that you can do it any time, so.
Well, it's just that during normal business hours, I can go into any
Yeah.
business establishment and do a fire inspection.
Okay.
Cabela's would welcome anybody that would want to
Sure.
come in
Mhm.
with the fire department as well.
Yeah, so I don't really see that there needs to be.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Make a motion if you want.
You're ready to make one? I'm ready to process it here. You want to make a motion to issue the license?
I so move.
Second?
Okay. And as indicated, this license will be filled out referring to information in the application regarding the product names, classes, maximum quantities, and number of magazines used. Okay?
Mhm.
All right, any other questions or comments?
No?
All right, hearing none, I'll take a vote to issue the license. All those in favor?
Aye.
There you go.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you, Chief. And I- Mary,
Yes.
thank you very much.
Dale?
Yes.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, that was perfect. I appreciate it.
And what we will do is, I think it's okay to delegate to Bruce the filling out. If that's
Yeah.
correct, okay.
Sure.
So we will execute these.
understand.
Mary will hold them until you've come in and supervised the filling of these
Correct.
out,
If you
okay?
want to pen and ink it, and then I'll type it in, whatever you want to do.
Oh, because you get 2 copies there?
I'm asking them to execute two
You can give
originals
you
if
a-
they want to.
Did you want to sit down?
But-
Can you do that now, or do you need? Okay. all right.
Yeah, well, you can take yeah.
Here's a
take
blank.
and-
That's not even signed, if you just want to try to fill it out.
Okay.
Okay. All right, so I'll let you guys do that. Did you need to catch up with
Yeah, are you in the office tomorrow?
us? Yeah, I mean, I could probably take 5 minutes.
Oh, yeah, you want to do that?
Yeah, 2 seconds.
Yeah, okay, good.
Do you mind?
As long as you're not smoking a cigarette.
All right,
Gotta keep your healthy, John.
I remember, you got the butters list.
Right.
Yep.
So my question is, when will that license be in effect?
What's this about?
That's a good question.
Because
It's effective, is that license effective? I think it's effective tonight, but they just need to finalize it. They can finalize it tonight.
yeah, because there's literally truckloads of ammunition.
Oh, have them circle the block.
Not even here, it's it's the most painstaking thing to put away in the store,
I'm sure,
because it's
no
literally.
doubt. Really.
Well, I think you signed them, so we'll
So
leave
yeah,
them both for tomorrow.
no, they're all down in Wheeling, just sitting there waiting.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're just sitting and waiting.
Do you want to give them direction on that? Do you want to know, is it effective tonight?
You need me
Well,
back right
it
this
would
second,
be-
or?
As far as we're concerned, we signed it, it's effective once Bruce.
That's tonight?
Yes.
Okay, so tomorrow I could bring
The
ammunition.
demand is
Got it.
exceeding
Okay, very
what they
good.
can make.
Yes.
Okay,
It's tough.
very good.
It's been approved by the.
I heard all kinds of stories.
Very
That we
good.
just can't get it.
Are there any questions?
Lucky you. You know, you-
Oh, no, I got a whole lot of work ahead of me, but it's okay. It's good work.
I know. Yeah. Yeah, I do.
Well, nice meeting you again.
Before we get in.
Well, the brick behind me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you might as well.
If you do, you do, you don't.
Business guy?
Yeah.
You want to come on up? Hi.
I didn't get your message until 5:30 this
I
afternoon.
talked to someone who thought that you were gone for the day, so
Yeah,
I tried. Huh.
I appreciate it. So I'll go down and see what's going on.
Well, you saw our letter.
Yeah.
Do you have any response to the letter?
Well, you know, I really didn't digest it that thoroughly, to tell you the truth.
Okay.
But as far as I know, we were waiting for your consultant to.
Which was the letter you got?
Right, so,
And he had a number of comments and further questions
okay.
in that letter.
There are no questions.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that. Okay.
Yep. Do we have a copy of that handy?
It is, yep,
Oh, it's in here?
it's not in the point.
Okay. Oh, it's down in miscellaneous?
I don't think I put it in there because I don't think we had an answer.
Yeah. Well, I figured as long as you were here, in the
Yeah.
interest of moving things along, we can take, what, maybe 5 minutes and just quickly.
Sure, absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah, because with that fabulous weather we've been,
That was number 7.
I've been
Huh?
numb.
Oh, okay, good, good.
Numb, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, left him a message.
And, okay.
We want it to come, but when it comes,
All right.
Mike, want to get you another copy of
Hmm?
that? Should make another copy.
Yeah, why don't you, because then we can both talk about it.
yeah, we've been up.
What were some of the points we talked about?
Like, should have it back that way.
See? I thought the fellow that did the analysis, I thought he had everything all done on his report, but evidently.
Yeah, well, this'll,
Something different.
well, I got it a few weeks ago now, so I have to relook at it myself, so. And I didn't know you were coming in, or I would have read it ahead of time. All righty. Thanks. Okay.
Left up a copy.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, yes, if you look at the bullet points on the top of page 2.
Not signed by license. It wasn't signed, oh, okay. Yeah, I do recall reading that. No site history regarding cover road construction was provided. I don't know. I'm looking for site history.
Mm-hmm.
No information regarding the nature of the soil generated. Whether it contained granite. Well, I thought that was a part of the analysis.
The analysis that he indicates governs the sort of chemical. That is the stuff that is on the first page in the second paragraph. That's petroleum hydrocarbons, metals, volatile organic compounds, semi-volatile organic compounds, polychlorinated biphenyls. There's a conductivity, pH, flash point, and reactivity tests. Those were all there. I think what he's saying here is because you can have soil, obviously, that would have rebar or construction debris or whatever and could still pass those chemical tests. So what he's asking for there is an information or a statement regarding whether those soils contain any, no, not chemicals, debris, rebar, building materials, anything of that sort. The point being that you can pass the chemical tests and you can have, a bunch of, you can have an old foundation that's crumbled up in there or whatever. So that's the question that's being asked in the third bullet. Okay?
Well, from my observation, I mean, it's a virgin, pretty much a virgin woody site.
The
topsoil is stripped off,
Mm-hmm.
and all there is topsoil.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yep.
So what are you doing? You're tearing up a road and bringing it in to be processed? Where is this asphalt
No, it's
coming?
on Cabot Road off of Hudson,
Okay,
extension of 85 extension of
290?
290
Yep.
plus 85.
Yep,
And the first street on the right is Cabot Road.
okay,
Well, it's a virgin wooded area
right,
that Bob Moss is proposing, or he's building
yep,
several, or a couple of hundred apartments.
yep,
And they went in and cleared the trees and stripped the topsoil.
yep.
And there was no buildings there prior
Okay,
that I know of, to be
Yep.
honest with you.
So this should be easily answered. It's just that
yeah.
in accordance with the bylaw, we have to have information of that kind for the record. That's,
So what is it you're going to temporarily store down on
Store
River
the
Road?
topsoil.
Oh, just
It's in their way.
topsoil?
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of topsoil.
Oh, okay.
And he gets to keep.
So there's no asphalt, concrete, or anything like that
No.
going in there?
Oh,
It's
no,
just,
it's- No,
yeah,
no,
okay.
Yeah.
It's a virgin site.
Yeah,
And,
well, I know the area,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's a huge pile of topsoil that's in their way,
Sure,
mm-hmm.
and they want to bring it down to this site.
yeah,
And then when the site's almost finished, the
Haul it
landscape
back,
and
sure.
stuff, bring part of it back and whatever they don't need,
Yeah.
they're gonna leave it here
yeah.
on my site.
Okay, how is that, with respect to the site on River Road, what stage is it at as opposed, being completed? Is there any more raw material in there to be removed?
There is some raw material, some sandy material and some rock.
Yeah,
Okay. The rock, I'm pretty sure that I'm not gonna do any further work on the rock,
okay,
because originally, Reese and I had gotten together, and when he owned the 5 acres next to it.
sure,
Where Spooky Road was. We had gotten together, and we were gonna blend the topo between the two of us, so
Yeah.
he wouldn't be up here and we would be
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
vice versa. And we came to the board at the time, and it was approved. However, in the meantime, Reese sold that 5 acres.
Yep.
To a house builder.
Right,
And so now there's 3 or 4 houses up there,
so now it isn't gonna happen. They're not gonna want that level out.
you know?
Right.
Oh, yeah, right, that whole site.
Right,
But I still have some material between from where I stopped blasting
mm-hmm,
to the boundary, where I could take some more out.
okay,
But I made up my mind pretty much that I'm not going to,
okay.
because of the fact that it's not worth the hassle. You know,
Yeah.
and the gamble,
Sure,
you know, with all the, you know, the houses there,
Yeah.
brand new houses there, whatever they are.
right, right, oh, yeah.
$600,000-$700,000 houses there, so.
So will you use some of this material to finish off? and-
Yeah, we've already about 99% done with the slope against the rock face.
Yeah,
You know, if folks remember, the other sheer rock face.
yeah, I looked at it about a month ago, I just happened to be
Yeah,
walking
so
through the
I'm
woods.
pretty
I
much-
went-
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, so you've seen that.
Yeah.
We're pretty much done with that. We
Mhm.
still need a little bit more material for the slope itself.
Sure,
And that's done as far as that part, meeting the 2-to-1 slope.
yeah. Okay,
And then there is some sandy material that's left there that, depending on the ultimate plan of the land, I'd like to, I want to put the land up to sell it, market it, you know.
mhm,
Because for the most part, we're done as a sample. There's some still material in there that can be taken out, you know.
I just wonder, Mr. Chairman, if we could tie this to refinishing and starting to close.
Well,
out
actually,
that-
we have a closeout plan
Okay,
in place.
Okay.
It's just has been deferred for quite some
I don't
time.
think it makes any
This
difference.
material
It's-
might help.
it's the fact that
Yes,
you've
however,
requested more
let's
licenses.
complete
So
the
they
points
did it
because we need
down
to,
Yep.
we need to,
Yep.
we need to move on.
Fine.
Okay, so, you shouldn't have any trouble with that third bullet point, but, you know, they do require it. Now, the fourth bullet point, okay, that refers back to the last paragraph of the first page, okay? And what it says is, for soils below the RCS 1 standards, and that's what these are, okay? Their transportation is governed by the Mass Regulation stated, which states that soils cannot be transported where they trigger notification under the MCP, or where the concentration of the receiving facility are significantly lower than the soil being imported, okay? So what that means is even if they're below RCS 1, if they were still significantly higher than your site on River Road, they can't be imported, all right? So that's the point that he's raising here, is there needs to be,
A baseline.
what he's asking for is that there needs to be baseline information about the site on River Road, okay? Now, what I would suggest on that point is maybe if the LSP for Cabot Road could call George Nasius and talk about that, because where we're talking about topsoil from what's a virgin site, there may be some way, you know, to expedite that. And we all know that, you know, the soil from that area is gone. I mean, you're sort of down to, you know, down
I know,
to
it's- yeah.
real subsoil and rock and so on.
They want to know if it's light material.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's the point there, okay? So those are the 4 points that
Yeah.
need to be addressed. We did kind of lose the thread of this because of the storms and cancellations and so on. However, I think if you would be ready to respond to this and pick this up sometime in the next, you know, 2 or 3 weeks, I think we had discussed the idea of expediting the continuance of this by simply sending, you know, a first-class letter to the abutters saying, we're starting this up, it was continued.
Okay.
And that would avoid having to go through the notification process from the beginning,
Yeah.
all over again. So, why don't you do this, take this, talk to your people,
Yeah.
have them call George if they need to. And then if you could get back to us maybe by, you know, next week, at least to tell us, you know, whether you think you're gonna be ready to go. And then we need to set a date and we need to send some notes out. Okay?
Fine,
All right.
okay,
That
appreciate it.
okay with everybody?
Can we give,
Yeah.
Okay.
give them a
sounds
list
good
of
to me.
dates or something? Can we give them a list of dates?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do right here. You don't want it into April. You want this in March? Or do you care?
Well, I mean, I think he cares more than I do about how soon it is, but I think if we're going to try to pick up the thread, we should do it sometime in the next
Right, right.
smaller number of
Yeah.
weeks, okay?
So in other words, the point right now is,
Yep.
Those are the dates of the upcoming selectmen meetings.
okay,
Can he have that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, okay?
okay.
So you figure that out, if you can give us an indication of when you'd be ready by next week, then we can, I think, perform a kind of an expedited
Very good.
revival of this, all right?
Well, same situations exist, but with the weather, we can't.
Yeah, no,
Anyway, so.
I was saying when we hadn't heard back from you, I said, well, I don't suspect that people are moving a lot of soil around right now, because they'd have to move around so much snow first.
Well, that's
so.
it, I was up to here in snow.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we'll see you in July then.
Yeah, pretty much. Well, not really,
All right.
but yeah.
Could be.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
Yep.
See you later.
Dennis, sorry.
I'm next?
Yep, you're next.
Oh. I'll be brief. We're coming into benefit season.
Yep.
Over the year, a couple of things have stood out that people have either asked for or sounded okay. The first one is flexible spending accounts. And the only reason I'm bringing this up again, last time we talked about it, there's a gamble. The town can lose money depending on how it starts out the first year, or the town can make a lot of money depending on how the employees react. This particular plan ensures the loss, so the town could only come out winner. It's not how to look at it, but there is some gambling involved when you implement this kind of plan. It's something that local towns are starting to put in place for their employees. Clinton just did it, or was in the process. Grafton, a couple out in the Berkshires, Barry.
And does the loss arise because people can draw out an annualized amount and then
Quit a month later.
Quit a month later.
Correct, and that's fully insured. They claim, they being American Fidelity, they don't lose a lot of money on that. It's not as bad as back when these plans first came in. And, you know, I'm not an expert on these yet, but I didn't want to pursue them if you thought it was something we absolutely shouldn't think about. It's pre-125. There's a few benefits. They all offer free plan writing and that.
How much work does this make for you?
It starts out very slow, and it builds up to a small population. There are some limitations. Depending on what you pick, you may have to work 25 hours a week instead of 20. So, that, you know, there's some details that would have to be worked out. You need to work 20 hours for pre-tax, 25 hours for a disability plan. You know, it's not a huge sign-up like medical or dental.
Okay.
Yeah,
And have there been requests from employees for it?
a couple. It's not widespread, but A few people have brought up that they'd like to see it.
How many are aware of it?
Not too many.
I mean, I've used
Yeah.
them, and as long as you spend all your money by the allotted time,
And
it's
you
a
can
good
be-
deal.
You can be liberal, you can add a 75-day extension, you can click and roll it over, you know, you can customize the whole plan. The other one that came up,
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask you, because you said we could end up a winner, but as
You
the
don't wanna
the
be a
laws
winner.
have become more liberal.
Exactly.
Plans have become more liberal,
yeah,
so that it becomes much more difficult to be any kind of winner.
and it's not the reason you do it. It's just,
No, of course.
You know, it's.
No, and I actually think you shouldn't be a winner, but I just, that's really not much of a possibility, okay.
The other plan that came up that has had, once again, not a ton, but more interest is Maya is now sponsoring through Blue Cross an eye plan. And most of the towns that offer it don't pick up any of the cost other than the cost to manage the plan, like all the other benefits. So that's more for informational. It's not a recommendation that we do it tonight. But those are the two plans.
In what time frame would we have to make a decision if we're gonna?
Well, open enrollment for this year will be April,
Okay.
so it's
All right, so,
big.
yeah. So,
And right
soon.
now, I have no time to work on this stuff, so, but it's something just to bring it in, make you aware of it, see, you know, a little bit of feedback.
My own feeling is that we should look at something like this, but to look at it between now and April with the difficulties that you're
Right,
having with
the
payroll
payroll.
and all that makes it inappropriate this year. I actually think that one of the things we should do is, if we're gonna do this, maybe have, you know, a couple of open house meetings so we get more than an anecdotal sense.
Right.
And do it on a time frame we can actually do that, and then roll it in for perhaps next year.
And also get the benefit committee involved
Yep,
and,
yep,
see what
yeah.
they think about it, because
Yeah.
we haven't really been too active with that over the last year.
Yep, that's a good point.
So that's item number one. The second one
How
is,
do people feel about that?
Yeah,
Booting it?
yeah.
Yeah,
Something
I
in
think
for
it's
you.
too close.
but keep it moving.
Right.
Keep it moving, I think have the
Good.
benefit committee work on it, and I think also, if we're gonna do something like this, there ought to be an open house for, you know, employees, as I say, so you're not dealing with a couple people who sort of caught you in the hall, or,
Right.
you know, or bend your ear from time to time on it, so.
Yeah. One of the latest and greatest from the state is setting up a revolving account for tax title. I have mixed feelings about that. I personally have never had trouble setting a budget, and we've done very well. But other towns are considering it, and I just thought I'd give you a sample of, towns want to do it, but they're waiting for the Department of Revenue to come out with an IGR or with, you know, some advice. It hasn't come out yet.
Mhm.
I asked for a placeholder.
I put one on the draft warrant for you to look
Okay.
at tonight. I
And-
took Westborough's language, which is one sentence.
Okay, so it might be something another year put off, but it's something I'd like to.
Tell us how this works compared to now.
Right now, I have to go to town meeting and ask for, typically it's about $15,000 or $20,000 in the budget as a line item to take care of all legal and all expenses
Mhm.
for putting them into tax title after they're passed to me by the tax collector,
Mhm.
and then doing everything it takes to take them out. In the past, it's been rather expensive because you were going back 3 or 4 generations, there were so many old ones.
Mhm.
The new ones, we're down to about 4 or 5. Richard has another 6 or 7. 2 of them are difficult, one being the Tolman one,
Mhm.
and the other being the, I call it the drug house up off of Estabrook. That's gonna take a little bit of maneuvering.
I thought the feds had that
Well, according to our attorney, we still have highest
on the pecking order.
on the
where-
pecking order, but I've also been told good luck when you're up against the feds, so we'll see where that goes. But it's just something to make you aware we're thinking about it out in Treasurer Land.
Mhm.
This would allow all the money that we do, I don't think all the money, but some of the fees and the interest and that we recover from clearing tax title to go into a revolving account, so eventually you don't need a line item,
Mhm.
providing the volume's big enough.
And how do you feel about it? I mean, it doesn't seem
I'm
to me.
mixed,
Yeah.
I'm mixed. You know,
Okay.
if I was a town, and there are some where you don't do any tax titles because there's no money in the budget, this would be something you'd really push hard for.
But you've been managing quite well.
That 15 has done, you know,
Yeah.
very well,
I
but,
mean, I wouldn't vote for anything that you didn't feel strongly about.
yeah, right now I don't,
So-
but, you know, this is more informational.
Just
just
No, I
So you
think
know
that's
we're
Yeah.
up
So,
on top of
this
everything.
is a revolving account.
Right.
When you get money, the money would go in here and stay in here?
Correct. The
Instead of
interest-
going to the general fund?
The interest of this fund would go to the general fund, but,
You could,
But you would keep the,
yeah,
And use it for further
only to tax title.
tax title.
Right.
now, do you have, so let's say you had two big, I don't know, you get 30,000 and 60,000. You've got $90,000 sitting in there, does that mean we then have to put an article on to transfer the
take it
money
out.
out and
Yeah,
put
right.
it in?
Yeah.
Yes.
Just like overlay surplus?
Yep.
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, my own feeling is, we've done just fine
If
doing
it's
it as a
not
line
broke.
item. And you, or I think any other treasurer, could, you know, get up and say, you know what, we have, you know, 12 properties in the pipeline, I don't need 15,000 this year, I need 25,000, and the town has to spend this in order to realize the tax taking and the title transfers. And I don't think anybody's,
Right.
It's not,
Gonna-
Right.
I don't think anybody's gonna have an issue
Right.
about that.
File it.
And last but not least.
So do you would not want that on the,
I think we've just decided we
We'll take
probably
it off.
don't need it at this
Okay.
point.
Yeah.
We certainly don't need it this year, and
Just to make you aware of it. This is the 2015 invoice for Highland Comics.
you saw who was just here, didn't you?
Yes. I would like to have another set of eyes, because there's only a handful of us that even know how to do this.
Yep.
You're making me sign it, I like that.
But page 2 is the cumulative amount showing the balance on the interest.
Mhm.
And also, I'm not, you get into the CPI, and when you get to 128 pages, there's charts all over the place. I gave samples of last year's and
Yep.
this year's, just for a second person to say,
Yep.
yep, it's only 0.6 for the CPI for all. And I have last year's tables and this year's, it's Boston area.
Yeah, that's what we use, the
Yeah, so it
Eastern
comes out
Mass,
to
Boston.
0.6, so
It
it's
is?
less, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, not as good as we thought, but that's 15, that's 14.
yeah,
Yeah, growth over.
okay,
So that goes out on Selectmen stationery,
yep,
and we'd like to see it come in before town meeting, because we still have to work out strategy for funding.
Yep.
If we don't put out
I was
some
gonna
capital.
offer to get together with you sometime and just go through the various categories and things that we think are appropriate
Yep,
to be taken out of.
yeah. Okay, I'll take a look at this.
alrighty, appreciate it,
Yep, I'll get back to you this week on it, all right?
alrighty,
Is that fair enough?
That's great.
That's okay?
did you send
Yeah.
that electronically so that I could put it on letterhead?
sure.
Okay.
Yep. Just kinda double checking the math and.
Yep, I'll take a look.
Great. Thank you.
Yep, I mean, I think it should be smoother this year because we worked out the methodology
Yes,
last year.
yeah, the interest is moving out.
Yeah,
It is getting smaller, so we'll be hitting the 2,025,000 at some point.
yeah,
So it is a finite amount. But public safety should take another jump next year with Cabela's,
Yep.
100,000, 110,000 square feet.
yep. Excellent,
Great, thank you.
thanks. Oh,
Oh, please.
We'll, keep that so I can review it. I'm gonna put those things in the appointment file in case you didn't, the things he was handing to me.
Okay.
Okay, and then Bruce, I think we'll pick up, actually, are you going? 'Cause we- Pipeline. We want to keep it to about 5 minutes or so if we can.
I will be quick.
Okay?
That's one. I did send previously a slightly altered article for the warrant.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And the change was?
to ask the legislature to vote against, to say no on this Article 97, including eminent domain.
Mhm.
Because as I read.
Oh, that's right, yes.
Right, and
I'm-
it would minor change.
I'm happy with that.
All right, and I wanted to explain why I did that, because I've been reading the Natural Gas Act of 1938, and Kinder Morgan says they have the right to take land by eminent domain, and it's not entirely clear that that's exactly the case, so I want to make sure that that base is covered
Nope.
in any article that we pass.
I was willing to have it in there
Yep.
because, as you know, I have less, I put less reliance in the sort of constitutional section as the law that prevents taking by eminent domain of reserves and parks and so on. So I think, to me, that encompasses any move to modify that state law as well. So I was fine with that.
Okay, good, and it makes our case more powerful, because this will probably end up in court. Now, the other thing that Marcia and I talked about this is sometime before the annual town meeting, we would like to do some type of mailing to town residents, advising them of what we're doing, what all of this means, just as objective as we can possibly be. And Marcia was wondering if we would be able to put that out on the town permit, for mailing.
Mailing permit?
Right, now, I'm not asking for money, we haven't worked out where the money's gonna come from, and we haven't worked out, the flyer or the letter or any of that. We're just thinking in advance of what, we want to do. And I am going to apply for some grant money to, help us put something together,
Why don't you do a report in the annual report?
Yeah, we
Because
have
then,
to do that anyway.
yeah, so why not just do that?
Okay, well, we want to make sure, that this passes a town meeting.
How long have I been in town government, and I can't tell you how to make anything sure that it passes a town meeting?
I don't have a problem with them using the bulk mail permit because we appointed them.
Right.
We did appoint them, but I mean, I
I mean, we're not paying for it, we're just giving them a,
I
Right, we-
understand.
Right,
Cheaper
we're
rate.
not asking for money, we're just
Yeah,
asking
I
for
think if it's
permission.
going out on the bulk mailing permit, it needs to be approved as a communication by the
absolutely.
Board of Selectmen, not just,
Would reserve the right to review
yeah, you'd have to
whatever
bring it
goes
in.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we don't have a problem with that.
yeah. But I would also urge you to get something good and clear and compelling into the
Town report.
town report, because I have to tell you, a lot of people who go to town meeting read that stuff
Yeah, now
before they go.
What's the date by which that needs to be?
Usually-
January 27th.
The beginning of April.
January 27th was the deadline, but people are still putting in their reports.
Oh, okay.
I was gonna say, I haven't written mine up yet.
Yeah, we're-
Immediate.
Okay. And, all right, I guess that's it. We're gonna put together our own, we're trying to put together our own dog and pony show. A lot of people did show up at the forum that we had at 19 Carter, so there is a lot of interest in town,
Good,
So
good.
we'll just keep plugging away.
All righty,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
All righty.
Yes.
Thanks very much,
And-
both of you,
and
for your
thank
work.
Marcia too, because she's really
Yeah.
Yeah,
incredibly, right on top of all of this.
Got your email, I just got your email on that Longhorn Beetle stuff, so I'll look into that.
Yeah, and I did call the
Yeah.
DP,
Okay, good, DP,
And,
yeah,
DP.
DCR.
no, not DCR, the forest warden here in town.
We'll talk about it.
Yeah.
I'll talk to you.
Okay. Thanks.
all right,
See ya.
thanks.
Tree line first.
There you go. I think this was about EMS Corp.
Yeah, I had
Forgive me,
just-
I couldn't ever remember making an appointment to that in the past,
Annually.
annually.
Annually, the board does. Your board
Is it one
does.
of those green cards that we sign,
I don't think
60
so.
of
It's
at
a
the
letter.
beginning?
No, I think it's a letter that
Yeah.
goes out
Okay.
to the three members. Central Mass EMS Corporation is the sort of the parent organization that governs EMS in the region, assigned that by the state. It also runs CMed, which is the communication link in Worcester that the ambulances go through for assignment of hospitals, et cetera. They also approve and supervise all the EMS training in this section of the state. So they have a medical control and an educational supervision oversight, if you will. Where the town is a member of it, then it gets to appoint 3 people to the governing board. They meet, the board itself collectively meets once annually, and then different members can apply to be on different committees or subcommittees, and/or they could run for different positions in the organization, president, vice president, that type of a thing, to serve. There are 3 people that the town appoints as members. 1 represents government, 1 represents the fire department, 1 represents the EMS provider in town. Of record, with my involvement, there was Bob Munter as fire chief, Andy Munter as rescue chief, and I was appointed as the government representative. Over the years, obviously with the passing, we had those other 2 members, the town along the way appointed, I believe, I can't be certain on this, Kevin Pond as the fire department representative, and I believe Jim Spinney as the EMS representative. Again, I'd have to vow to you guys to figure out who got appointed annually, since I'm the only one who's shown up at the meetings annually, which is, the annual meeting is held on the first Tuesday in May, usually at St. Vincent Hospital is where it's held.
Okay.
And I just simply brought it up relative to, I had gotten an email saying, sort of a dunning notice about this coming up, the annual appointment. And I sent it on to Mary, realizing, 1, that I'll be retiring. I can certainly serve out, and then you could replace me at some point. Or you could decide to appoint 3 new members, or whatever.
What's your recommendation?
I'd like to see certainly more participation than myself. I've always participated. I don't mind continuing to serve, and then you can replace me, but I'd like to see the other 2 members, whoever they are currently listed, that they, when there's going to be, someone's going to represent the fire department, and someone has to represent EMS. If I stay as government, or you can put me as fire and put someone else as government.
Does Spinney is still interested? Is Spinney still interested?
Neither one of them have shown up, so I don't know if they're interested. So I would certainly defer to, I would suggest that you notify all 3 members and ask if, including myself, say, do you wish to serve
that
another
sounds
year?
reasonable.
And if you don't, set a drop dead date. If they don't respond back, then I'd approach the rescue chief and the fire chief with the 2 recommendations.
That makes sense. All right.
So we notify.
Yep. And is the deadline for this before the annual meeting, or is
It's on
there?
that letter,
Yeah, it's on the,
March, late March.
yeah, it's coming up. It's coming up. It's in that email somewhere there.
Yes, no later than March 31st. Okay. All right. So we got a couple meetings between now and then. Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
See,
It's not in here.
Yeah, as I say, that one was under my radar screen.
This to give to Judy.
What? Chief Calva.
I have a couple of personnel matters, but I also brought some stuff to give to Judy for the IT committee. This was a gentleman that Bruce and I met with last week, and this is a group that I'd contacted before. They actually do the IT support for Neshoba Valley Regional Dispatch.
Oh, okay.
And the microdots does the IT support for Bolton.
All for all.
Yeah, I was gonna
So,
Just-
Okay.
We just knew that you were gonna, with your IT budget and all and the transition, that we as a public safety entities have an interest in seeing this
resolved.
see our end supported adequately
Okay.
in the coming year.
Okay,
What is the issue you're talking about?
and
Give executive
You-
session.
you had a request for executive session.
Yes.
Okay.
And how would we characterize this as, I want to be sure that we're eligible here for
Okay.
executive session.
Yeah.
That's the,
Where's the list?
but I'm looking at it here, but
Old list, but
we
that
have,
Probably generally works.
yeah, we have that, the new rule, and
Is it strategy? It's not really.
It is, kind of.
yeah, I think what we can do is go into executive session for a strategy session for negotiations with non-union personnel, and as we get into it, if we feel that we are beyond that, then we may have to,
Notify.
back up and
Okay.
go another route, okay?
Excellent.
So, this requires a roll call vote of the Board of Selectmen to go into executive session. Andrew, aye.
Bickford, aye.
Boom, no.
And you'll return to open session.
And we will return to open session after this.
Okay, you're on.
All right.
Did Bruce leave?
We're back into open session. Should we just have a little chat about the regionalization
Sure.
now, so that as long as we're on a roll with the chief? So, that was certainly a lot to take on when I was there, and I was initially surprised at the
Yeah,
the
I was-
regionalization.
Tell you-
So, I'd love to, I'd love just to get some more background, some of your thinking on it.
Yeah, I mean, there's pluses, there's minuses.
Mhm.
First of all, I wasn't overly impressed at the presentation. I think that in working with him through the study, he could have done a much better job to present the data. But I think as we look at it, cost is obviously one factor, but I think as Don Lowe even said, it's really not what we should base our decision on, because it's got to be the service that is provided.
Yep.
The current state of dispatch now, we function, we work. There's no problem with that. However, there are certain mandates by the state. One that's discussed the most is EMD, which is emergency medical dispatch.
Right.
We cannot provide that function.
What's that?
Emergency medical dispatch is basically dispatchers are required to give emergency medical instructions to people, to aid people until we
Okay.
arrive at the scene.
Yep.
It's virtually impossible to do with a single dispatcher. Unfortunately, because of a change in state law, it was mandated and we have to now do it. Our dispatchers have a difficult time doing that, trying to manage all the other tasks that they do, between taking the initial call, dispatching police, dispatching fire, dispatching the ambulance, and then to try and stay in contact and continue to get updated information is very difficult. And that's one of the things that really precipitated this whole process. So when we look at it from that respect, there is no doubt that we will get a higher level of service through a regional center. I've had the ability to actually go out to the center of Devon's and watch them do it. It was amazing. I watched a 911 dispatcher pick up the phone, begin taking the call, typing some information in the computer, and immediately start giving medical instructions to the person on the other end of the phone, while the other dispatcher sitting on the other side of the room, without them even talking, begins sending the ambulance from that community. It was a pretty amazing process to see it work. And that really highlights the shortfalls that we have. When you look at some other, I guess, benefits of regionalizing, for us on the police end, it's data sharing. The current PAMET system, which we have a lot of problems with, would be replaced. They use a system which used to be referred to as IMC. It's now a company called TriTech. It has an office right over in Marlboro. The system would link every single department in the regional center. So not only do we have availability of looking at our data, we have every community's data. So I may interact with you, Walter, on the street here, and we document it in-house. But you could also deal with Bolton 10 times. I would never know that if you weren't arrested or issued a citation that would go into a state database. But through this system, we would type your name in, and it may come up with BER and then a number, and that would be your record in Berlin. Then it would BOL and then a number and your record in Bolton, and so forth with Lancaster and Harvard and Devens. But it goes even a step farther because it's linked to a hub out of Fitchburg. I believe there's 10 communities, I may be wrong on that number, that are linked to the Fitchburg hub. And what that does is now that allows us to access all of that data. And what the company is now working with, they're working with the state because they have hubs throughout the state, and through the criminal justice information system, they are trying to get a pathway to link all those hubs so that we would have access to every database in the state. It's quite an amazing amount of data sharing. Some of the other things to look at are our infrastructure. We do have some aging equipment that's going to need to be replaced. That's expensive.
Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, 250 to 400,000?
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at basically all the controls that are in front of the dispatcher that run everything. They, like everything else, have a lifespan. So that we would have to look at the capital costs to replace and maintain those. You know,
And those figures that were in that report, were they accurate, you feel?
yeah, I mean, the one thing about it is, I said I wasn't impressed with the actual presentation. Tom Kennedy knows what he's doing. He knows his stuff. This is what he did for the state police. So he knows the equipment. The radio people he brought in, they're accurate with their figures. I'm confident in that. But there's also some drawbacks to look at. There's a personal level of service. You know, you pick up the phone during the day today. Donna knows a lot of people by voice. That's something that we would have to look at. You know, not every dispatcher is like that. I mean, Veronica's working now. Veronica's great, but she lives in Connecticut, so she doesn't. So we don't always have that personal level, but we do at times. So that's something to consider when we make this decision. That not everyone is going to have that immediate connection when they pick up the phone, but the one thing that they will understand is that they will get the service.
Will there be layoffs if this?
Well, what they said at the meeting is that if the two towns were to join the center, they would need to hire additional people, and their plan would be to hire from the Bolton and Berlin dispatchers.
They were kind of vague on how many they
Yeah.
need to hire.
They themselves, they have a whole committee that would have to look at it and evaluate everything. One thing that they do very well there is constantly evaluate call volumes and the times of those calls and how they adjust their staffing.
The guy who was the head, right, he
Yeah.
was pretty impressive.
Yeah, he does a phenomenal job. And I would say before any decisions are made, it would be beneficial to take a ride out there. And you could probably stop out there anytime and just to take a look.
Fort Devens.
Yeah, out at Devens, just to see the operation. You know, the other option in the study was to join with Bolton. I have some major concerns about that, just because, one, how would we fund it? If it was based on call volumes, I have a feeling that we're going to see a continued rise in our call volumes as this commercial development continues. And I don't think Bolton's necessarily going to see that same rise, so that we could end up paying a higher percentage. And based on facilities, they have a more modern facility already. It would be logical that they would host the center. Therefore, we would be paying for employees that we don't have any ancillary benefit of, that are actually in our building.
Right.
So that, you know.
I also got the feeling that what he was saying is you probably wouldn't get any grant money, because they don't want two towns, they want you to join.
We would be less apt to receive grant funding to join as two towns as if we were to join the already operational regional center. And that's a big portion of this, is there is a pool of grant funding available. So that would fund a lot of this transition. A major cost would be all of our data transfer from the payment system to the TriTech system. And even potentially physical changes to our building. You know, we would have to provide some level of security because there wouldn't necessarily be someone down in the front 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There would be funding available for that. You know, and could possibly provide some access control for the whole facility. You know, what we have to look at is what is the future going to bring. We're behind in New England in 911 dispatching. If you look throughout the country, regional centers are commonplace. It's very, you know, it's unusual for every police department, every fire department to have a dispatch center.
Yeah, but Massachusetts has higher density, I mean, we're 351 cities and towns,
Oh,
and no
absolutely.
other state has that
Oh, yeah,
problem as bad
yeah.
as that. you
But
know.
still,
They do things on county levels.
right,
Yeah.
they do different
Yeah.
things in different areas.
Fire
Um,
departments, county level.
Yeah.
Right, right.
But the state, you know, state funding, or the state may push us towards regionalization at some point. You know, we may have a choice now versus, hey, guess what, you're gonna join with Marlboro and Hudson. Well, we'd kind of be a lost entity if we joined with agencies that size. So we have to look at controlling our own destiny as well. I've put it out there, it's posted on our Facebook page, I've received some feedback from the public already, and I'm, you know, very interested to see what continues to come in. And one of the major concerns that's been highlighted is that lack of personal service. So that is definitely something that we have to seriously think about.
Mhm. And this doesn't preclude that you would have somebody in a secretarial role as a point of service on the non-911 line of
Right,
the police
and
department.
I think that's something we've talked about already, is having some type of administrative help down there for all the public safety agencies. And this, you know, would be a way to do that, have them basically as that reception out at the front, and still be able to have calls transferred right in to the center, or from the center to our business line here, and they can still help people the same way that they get help now.
Mhm. And when is the compliance date for the emergency medical dispatch?
Oh, emergency medical dispatch has been in place since 2012.
Yeah.
So we've already been doing it.
I thought they said there was some drop dead date that you had to,
And that had already passed.
unless, the
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, I knew the law had passed, but I was
Yeah.
getting the impression there was some
No, everything.
further compliance date in that presentation.
No, everything has gone into effect with that. With the emergency medical dispatch, there was mandatory yearly in-service training. It changed the way all of our new dispatchers have to be trained, and increased the level of training they need initially to even be able to answer that 911 phone. But I think as we move forward, one thing that may be beneficial to us as a community is to have Tom Kennedy come out here and make a presentation that maybe, because it really wasn't a well-attended meeting for Berlin residents.
No.
No.
So maybe that people would feel more comfortable coming in here and being able to answer, you know, have some questions answered.
Yep. I think
Yep.
that would be
Well, I'll
good.
talk to you tomorrow or something, but I'm trying to balance, I'm listening, trying to keep in one side of my mind all the benefits and the other side where we are, and I'm not convinced that we
It'll
want to
give you
make a
headache,
big
Walter.
leap. Yeah, I know.
And we talked about that a little bit, you know, how do you kind of, you know, dip your toe in and start to get your
Yeah,
feet wet
yeah,
without
yeah.
diving all the way in, and it's tough, because
Yeah.
we have to look at, and that was one of the questions that got brought up the other night, is, well, what if we regionalized together and we saw how that worked? And then we
Right,
decided if
right.
we should move to the other study. Well, the problem is if the state was willing to give us some funding to come together,
Yeah.
in 3-5 years, whatever it might be, they're not gonna give us any more funding now to
Yeah,
move over
because
to
it was,
another center.
yeah.
I think I would need to go up and see their center.
Yeah, I think that would
And
be
then-
important,
I thought it was interesting that the woman from Lunenburg,
yeah.
that, you know, to hear what their solution was for not having anybody, and we didn't see anybody from Harvard.
I kind of hoped that Chief Denmark would have been there. I think that would have been a good kind of test to see how things have worked for them. But that may be a benefit for us if we have our own meeting, to whether we bring representatives from Lancaster or from Harvard to come in and give us some of their opinions. I think that Lunenburg's a little bit of a different animal in terms of this type of community that it is.
Lancaster and Harvard are closer to our size.
Yeah, they're very similar. And I think what you'll see with that center is that Lunenburg will probably be the largest community that will be in there.
Yeah.
That's one of the things that they explained to us during the process, is that they don't want to bring in a community like a Fitchburg or a Leominster or someone that would dominate the center. Because the way that they work is that everyone is charged a flat rate. And their reasoning behind that is that no matter when someone picks up the phone, every community is going to be delivered the exact same level of service. So rather than go in every year like the regional school districts do and reevaluate based on students, and you really never know how much you're paying every year until the end, if we were to base it on call volumes, well, we had a 22% increase in call volume this year. Does that mean we're going to spike next year and have to pay a larger sum? And it really would make budgeting difficult. The flat rate system, I think, actually is a good idea.
Well, I thought, I mean, we have equal representation, right? It's one person from each town.
There's one member, there's an administrative board, which would be an executive level, probably one member of the Board of Selectmen that would be on that panel. And then there's an operational board that would be the police, fire chief, rescue chief, whatever, from each community that's involved.
You feel there'll be anything coming out of our public safety study that will assist
I
with
actually-
the analysis of this?
They were looking at our dispatch as well.
Yeah.
I gave them a copy of his study.
Good. I was gonna
just
suggest you
kind of
do.
as a comparison. So I would be interested to see the results.
Yeah.
What they've come out about our dispatch center and what
Yeah.
their thoughts are.
Yeah, because that was, I think that's gonna be important.
Yeah. And one thing to think about too is they don't need an answer tomorrow. This is something
No.
that we can take some time, we can evaluate, we can look at. And even once we make the decision, it's gonna be a 12 to 18-month transition. There is a lot that goes into the transitioning to a regional center, so it wouldn't be something that we would have to rush and have.
What do you think the time is, a year?
To transition?
I mean, no.
Or to make a decision?
Make a decision.
I don't know. I think a year would be a long time.
Yeah.
I think that, once we get it out to the public, we start to hear some feedback from the residents. A month or two.
Sure.
Or as we get close to town meeting, might be that type of a timing to try and make a decision.
Now, how is that decision made? I don't know that, do we have to have a town meeting vote, or do?
I don't think so. I think it would just be an intermunicipal agreement that the selectmen could enter into. But you might want to run that
Yeah.
by town council.
Yeah, we'd have to check that.
Hey, Mary, town council.
Do you want me to ask town council?
Yeah.
Not yet.
Yeah.
No?
Oh, okay.
I mean, that would be a factor.
But again, and I think we've pretty much decided we're going to boot most major public safety decisions into a special town meeting.
And that may be the perfect forum.
Right,
to discuss
so I
everything.
wouldn't, again, I wouldn't want to, and that's one of the reasons I wouldn't want, to take this too much piece by piece by piece, anticipating that, because we
Yeah.
are putting money into the study. And
Right. Agreed.
I do think it'll take, frankly, I think it'll take more than between now and annual town meeting to socialize this idea here. But it is something we need, to look at over the next 12-month period, so that we
Yeah.
have some thoughts as to what we're doing in
Right.
this next budget cycle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if we decide that we're just gonna, I mean, to me, the choice isn't Bolton, the choice is either, it's just my personal opinion, either we regionalize or we just stay the way we are, because Bolton has the same drawbacks I see, in that you wouldn't have anybody here.
Right.
Now I forgot what my question was. Shit.
Well, we know what your opinion is.
Fact is, right now, we have adequate. Our
Oh.
system's
We are-
working.
Our
and
systems
we're
are
all
working,
right.
we are up and running and functioning.
That was my question.
Yes.
So if we don't do anything, what is our risk, besides the fact that we have to pay, we'll have to pay $500,000
We
for
might- we-
equipment?
Yeah, we're gonna have to look over the next few years at upgrading some equipment, there'd be some capital costs there. The risk would be, and this is something that's been discussed anecdotally throughout all the chiefs in different environments, is when is the state gonna mandate it? And what type of control could we lose in a process like that? The state's in the process right now of updating all the 911 equipment across the state. They're gonna come in and replace the entire computer system in every 911 center. You know, we're right now, because they knew we were doing a study, we're on the back end of that replacement. You know, it could come, there's been some concerns about the funding for that because of something that wasn't signed as the governor was going out, and now the incoming governor won't sign. And so we don't know whether they, you know, something could come along those lines because the funding's not there to upgrade all the equipment, because 911 equipment is getting upgraded to handle text and Twitter and Facebook and you name it. Dispatchers are now gonna have to sit in there and listen, and people could be tweeting police reports for the police or texting. It's a changing
Now,
job.
Tom, who makes that? Department of Public Safety, the average legislator has no idea that this is going on or what's going on, the amount of problems and
Oh, I
money
know.
and everything that's
The
caused.
EMD came from because a member of a legislator's family passed away, and some simple medical instructions over the phone could have been given. And that's where the EMD bill started.
One incident.
But if you look at EMD nationwide, it's done everywhere else.
Is it?
It was done everywhere else but here.
Okay.
It's also done on TV.
It's done on TV?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Just stay on the phone.
Okay,
So there is a lot to look at as we
Yeah.
move forward.
excellent. Well, I was
All right.
glad to
Yeah,
attend.
and what I'll do is I'll reach out to Tom Kennedy and talk to Mary and see if we can figure out a meeting coming
Yeah.
up to have him come out while it's still fresh.
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay?
I think he indicated he was gonna be out for a while.
Yeah.
Until later March, but yeah,
Excellent.
let's do that.
Well, thank you very much, and I will.
Thank you.
I'll be in touch on the other issues.
All right.
All right.
See you later.
Thanks. Okay.
I think we made a good choice.
Yeah.
So the electricity supply contract. Are we just gonna ask town council to look at that? Was that what you were gonna say?
Yes, we could do that. I looked at it, it seems pretty standard, but they may have had a, you know, we gotta ask them if they have looked at it. Nothing particularly jumped out at me that indicated that suggested it was an unfair contract or whatever, but I suspect with their coverage of towns, they may have already done something with that contract.
Well, that was the contract for Auburn,
Okay.
so I presume
Okay, I
it's
thought
their
that was the
standard.
I thought it was the
That's their
standard one.
standard contract.
Oh, I thought that Hampshire had given that to you.
Yeah, they did, but it was the one that they had with Auburn.
Oh, yeah.
Because they redlined out.
Okay? All right.
So what about it?
Send it to
Yeah,
town
send it to
council.
town council, see if they have any
Okay.
comments or concerns.
Okay, let me send it to Joel.
Yeah.
I might end up with Rick Holland again.
Mm-hmm. Mike?
Yeah, okay.
Okay?
What is an MS4 waiver? Is this the stormwater?
Stormwater. Looks like Berlin is being flagged as one of several communities where this is now applicable, unless you. request a
Applicable or
waiver.
not applicable?
You have to
Applicable.
actually, provide stormwater
Okay.
mitigation systems, or else seek a waiver.
All right. And Tell me how this arose.
It came into our inbox from
Okay.
DEP.
Okay.
They are also stating in that, though, there's a process where you could seek a waiver by saying that your urban center, your downtown, is not as dense as, you know, arguably some of these other downtowns that they list of these.
I thought we've had waivers like every so many years that Denny was applying for waivers.
One of the new towns is like Amherst, it's totally different than Berlin, or Harvard is listed now as being subject to this.
Would, we have money in the Conservation Commission from our fees and stuff that we can use for wetlands purposes. Would you want me to take this to the Conservation Commission and we could ask our consultant that we use on things like this to explain this a little better? See what we need to do? Or?
Well, I believe that Denny had previously put in 4 waivers and we got them.
Okay.
So is this saying now that because we have a waiver, they're saying that we don't qualify?
That's a little DEP letter that's providing guidance to towns that are now flagged as having to answer to this anew. But they also give a sample waiver letter that you would send.
Did you look up any of the other stuff? Because I'm pretty sure we've put a waiver in previously.
You know, that predates me, but maybe Peggy,
Well, Denny would know.
I think she did his typing, but yeah.
They spend a lot of time talking about the conditions that qualify you for a waiver if you're a town with a population of 1,000 or less. They say that you can also apply for a waiver if you have a town population of 10,000 or less.
In your urban center or something, I forget the term, word of art.
Well, I think we meet the criteria in there, as I read it.
Well,
The criteria for,
We're under, way under the amount of population in our so-called urban center that would qualify us to get a waiver.
Well, we used to be rural. I get this from the school,
We
used to
still
get
are.
a rural community grant, and this coming year, they can't get it because we're not considered rural anymore.
Well, that's a bummer.
I don't know what the definition or how they define what rural is.
okay. Yeah, I think the key definition here is the urbanized area. And if the urbanized area means a sort of an area that is subject to, sort of a comprehensive stormwater drainage system, we probably do have less than 1,000 people in that area. If it means somehow the entire area of the town, then obviously we don't, so. Is there a deadline on this?
April or something, we had to answer by.
Yeah, I don't suspect that we were getting waivers before, because it says here, the EPA is designating 24 towns for coverage under the 2014 draft MS4 permit that were not required to obtain coverage under the 2003 permit.
Okay,
So I think this is new.
okay.
Walter, you said, do you want to, did you say you had somebody you could talk to
Mhm.
about this?
Mhm.
Do you want to
Joey's a specialist.
take that one and
Yeah.
Do you mind if I give him a
Okay.
copy of this?
The fellow we use for a consultant, by the way, was
Okay.
the head of, he
Why
actually
don't you-
wrote the stormwater
All
laws
right,
for the state.
so why don't
for
we,
connectivity.
yeah, if you'd want to follow that one up, that
Sure.
would be great. There's the, there's
To
the
do.
sample letter.
Yep.
Okay, all right. Okay, a review of proposed ATM warrant articles.
You just took the treasurer one off.
Mm-hmm.
I think if you're gonna do that, maybe we should, Walter and I should also be able to look at a copy of it.
Oh, yeah,
what?
there's duplicates there. See the,
Of
right in
the
your
town
hand,
meeting.
flip back the very front of what you have there.
Yes.
There's a copy for everyone,
Okay,
yeah.
So otherwise,
There's just a couple. There's 6, and actually 2 are just BMS place marks,
funny, I don't-
placeholders, because we don't have an article from them.
I see one copy.
Oh, they're not identical? Yeah, there
Is
was
it
a-
one page only?
Yeah, it's 1 page only.
Okay. There we go.
so the boiler at Berlin Memorial is dead and needs to be replaced. They have 2 boilers. This is the old boiler.
So, do you think that we have a boiler assassin running?
I was gonna
Because,
ask this.
I don't know, but at the end of
maybe we shouldn't
this,
let Tom leave so early. Who's killing the great boilers of Berlin?
we've got money to replace the one here. We've got to replace the one at the 1870. The library has a fairly new one. And this will be the second of 2 at Berlin, so we'll be covered for a couple of years.
Okay,
And the piping will go.
okay. All right, and library roof design?
So the back wall where the roof comes together in the library, I was in there last week. They've taken the wallboard out, but it's leaking and they've been told that the only way to fix it is to have a redesign
Of the roof.
of the roof, of that area of the roof.
Because we did just re-roof.
Well, they didn't
Or-
re-roof the whole thing because they had a leak in the cafeteria when I went in. All those new acoustic tiles that have been put in, there was a leak there.
I thought they did.
Well, they repaired pieces of it, but it wasn't a new roof.
Who is they that said that, Judy?
Said about
That it
what?
has to be redesigned? The reason I'm
The
asking.
people who re-roofed it had told Nadine, I guess, that there's so many different materials that come together, and the way it was designed, it's a design issue, and so it should be redesigned.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, okay.
Larry went up there last Thursday too, I don't know that he's reported back.
I'm thinking, never mind. I was thinking the library, not the.
No.
No, absolutely, I know what we're talking about there. Yep, okay.
I don't know, I can't claim any knowledge
I mean,
of
the only
roofs
reason I
and
ask is-
designs
yeah.
and.
They got
But it's-
materials today, rubber roofs, that, I've seen it on buildings up at Malden Mills, and, you know, they had some of those old designs, they looked like a saw blade, and snow collect in it, and they cured it. So I would think, if anything slants downhill, you can cure it by putting a rubber roof on.
Well,
And
you
it's
should go
relative-
you should go walk,
I
go
will, I'll
over and
ask.
look at it
Yeah,
and find out.
I'll talk to Larry about it, sure.
Well, Larry went over there last week,
Okay.
so I don't
But
know
I didn't
what,
get back the result.
what he
What
thought.
item is that on here, or do you have,
No, that's,
it isn't on here?
Number
That's
9,
that
review
piece I
of
just gave
ATM
you.
warrant articles.
Oh, right here. Gotcha.
Just a
Oh,
placeholder.
articles, gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
okay. I mean, as far as putting something on.
There's no number yet.
On the warrant, I'm certainly in agreement if this school
Yeah.
board has asked us to put
Yeah.
a placeholder
Sure.
on, then
Yeah.
we put a placeholder on.
Right, right.
For both of those.
Yeah.
And we decided we would not do, for the time being, the tax title revolving account.
Yep.
And as we spoke earlier about the alternate pipeline and the addition of the language governing eminent domain, and I think we all agreed that was okay.
This is good, okay.
So if you look at the capital plan and see the articles for 2016,
Mhm.
do you have an article for each of those requests?
No, I took your FAC list from, that you gave me last week, and I invited all of them to give me articles. I don't have a checkoff list to see who's still outstanding. I think
Okay.
we have most of them.
Okay. Because it does close
Next week
next week.
at
The
8.
only other thing is that Dennis and Eloise and others want to rearrange the warrant to have there be all the capital articles put into one article, right?
I'm just, I'm not comfortable with that at this point.
What's that, Judy?
They don't want to do line items, they want to do it all as one big article. And then if you disagree with something, you would
Make a motion.
make a motion.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know how you two feel about that.
Well, I mean, there are some of them that are sort of cyclical and, and relatively minor, and I could see that treatment, but I wouldn't want like the fire truck rolled into that or something like that.
Barry suggested something under 30 grand, recurring things, like you
Yeah,
said, cruiser.
I think that's probably fine.
Hmm.
But, sort of one-time things, major replacements, no, not so
Where's the
much.
library roof redesign?
That's the school.
Berlin Memorial.
Berlin Memorial.
Would that be lumped in, or would that not be lumped in, or? Keith's trucks for
No.
DPW? If you look at the second one, $70,000 to replace a dump truck, is that routine, just replacement? Would that be like the cruiser?
Well, it is pretty routine
Yeah.
now,
That's a separate article for sure.
but
That's the thing.
I like the idea of less than 30 and recurring. That makes, and then see how that works.
well, we have a FAC meeting, but I suppose if you have all the articles in, you could rearrange them after the warrant's closed, right?
Sure.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
I mean, these aren't really numbered, right?
Not yet.
We
No,
decided,
they're not
right.
any
No, as
order.
long
There
as
shouldn't
the,
even be a number on it, right, there isn't a number,
No.
actually, is
No,
there?
the reason that we close it
Yeah.
ahead of time is so we can,
Right,
You're closing
Oh,
it next Monday.
yeah.
Yep.
But the reason that we do that is so we
Yeah.
can process this,
Organize
organize it, get things in
right.
the right order.
So the warrant closed, next Wednesday is the date the warrant closed.
Monday
Next
at
Monday
8.
at 8
Monday at 8.
AM.
PM.
PM.
PM,
Okay,
During
8 o'clock during our meeting.
yeah.
The first two are two more that came in since last week.
This, the.
Well, that article there, the first one for the Council on Aging bus, I thought there was some concern about
There
the
is a-
funds to actually run it.
There is an updated miscellaneous correspondence, I believe it's in there.
There is
Yeah,
somebody-
that said that they had to,
That they can take it from donations and they can take it from their grant money.
Mhm.
Mhm.
June got that from the DOR. So now I asked the council on aging last week, did you want to revise your budget to put in wages? At
And they said
minimum
no.
wage, and do a maintenance for the vehicle, and they're saying no now. They're
Yep.
saying they want to stay with the council on aging budget that they have already submitted. Ask for this article at town meeting and fund for the first year, because they don't really have a good handle on how to guesstimate the first year on need. But run with the money that they have.
That they're asking for in their budget.
No, they get a certain amount of money from a state grant, I guess it's on
Mhm.
per senior.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm presuming that that's where they're gonna take the money out of.
That's what they said.
yep,
So they're not asking they're asking to buy it,
Mm-hmm.
but
But they're
they're
gonna run it
saying they're
within their
gonna run
budget.
it through their budget.
yep.
And then ultimately, they think that they'd have donations be able to pay for some of that cost, but donations wouldn't totally cover the cost.
Okay,
Well,
I doubt it,
think
but-
we're gonna have to finesse this a little, because if they're thinking they're getting donations, then they'd have to have like a revolving account or something to put the money in, I believe.
I'm not sure how, if they have it totally fleshed out, but they also want to create a nonprofit. It's not a 501c3, but it's something else, be Friends of the Council on Aging, that would handle some of the function.
let me suggest this, that we'll put this on But we need to get some of these things ironed out between
Right.
town meeting and now, because I think there'll be questions that will come up.
Does anybody want to liaison with them, because I think that they need to talk to somebody?
I'm meeting her tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
But, I mean, I haven't heard about this 501c3 thing. I was gonna talk to her about the
Yeah.
running of the thing,
Mhm.
but I'll
Yeah.
ask her.
I think for purposes of, preserving the place and everything, and if it turns out that there really isn't a method of running it, maybe it gets booted a year, but if they think they can do it, we'll hear what they have to say.
Okay.
And then number two's okay? Just-
Number two's okay?
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
That was it for,
Yep.
okay? All right. And, okay, the Massachusetts mosquito control assessment.
You did vote to approve their budget last year. It was a little bit more informal, and they're formalizing it now. They're asking all their member communities to actually fill out that form and, clearly indicate that you support the budget and your own assessment for the coming year.
Okay.
What is the assessment?
The assessment is
30,000.
30,000, well, it's about $31,000, about $32,000.
32,000.
Well worth it. You can call them up anytime and tell them to come out and test your
Is
water.
that why you don't have mosquitoes all summer long?
Who says we don't have mosquitoes? Well, they did find, what, Triple E and, over by Sawyer Hill, I thought it was.
Yeah. No, it's always been a good, I've called them, I think once or twice myself, so,
Okay.
and they do it.
They're pretty responsive.
All right, so that we're being asked to,
And the Board of Health wrote that little
Yeah,
note on the
yep,
cover sheet,
yep,
they support it.
Board of Health said that they do support this. So that we're being asked to issue a declaration of support or no support for the mosquito control funding for fiscal year 2016.
So moved.
And again, it's 32,000 and very short change.
Second.
Second. Any further questions, comments, discussion?
No.
Okay?
No.
Hearing none, we'll take a vote. All those in favor of issuing a declaration of support, correct?
Yeah,
Say aye.
aye.
Aye. It's very odd. They're asking me,
Talk about your experience with mosquitoes.
no, to
To certify that
designate.
you're authorized to vote,
Yourself?
that you're authorized to sign it, or something, you have to designate.
It's weird. I mean, instead of just declaring the support,
Maybe there's a town administrator, so you're authorizing a town administrator? I don't know why.
yeah, it's odd. But shall I designate Judy Booman as the clerk, just so it isn't totally?
Yeah, the bug stops with you.
Hmm?
The bug stops with you.
Yeah, I like it. I like that. I like that.
Mosquitoes love me. My family loves that they love me.
They go right for you. They do it, they come after you.
They love me.
This is just okay.
It gets worse.
This is, it is a very weird, because it says, I, the Chief Executive Officer of Berlin, okay, hereby designate Judy Booman, Clerk, Board of Selectmen, to sign this declaration. Support. But then there's only one place for signature.
Just both sign it, maybe you're.
Yeah,
We'll be covered.
Yeah.
yeah. I'll sign it here, all right? It's,
Mary and I can sign it too if you want.
yeah, you wanna? No more autographs, right?
Leaves no doubt.
It's a very weird form.
Yeah.
There you
Not
go.
taking any chances.
Okay, so it starts with the first layer, the longest page, if you will. That is an email that came, a letter that came in from somebody seeking reimbursement for pothole damage. They said that they ruined a tire on Sawyer Hill Road.
I thought that the town was protected unless it had been reported and not fixed or
I mean,
something.
that's kind of how I always hear it in other towns, that as long as the town takes action against it within 24 hours to repair it. In this case, I asked Chief Galvin, and he said that when that actual claimant called the police department, dispatcher had it marked. The cones were put in the road that same evening of the accident where the person lost their tire.
I always drive around potholes.
If you see them, sometimes they look like puddles.
It's up
Yeah.
to me to see it.
Well,
The conditions, you drive according to conditions.
so my next question is, I don't see when I look through the computer, which has 10 years, a little bit more than 10 years worth of data in it, that you've ever instituted a pothole policy. That's Rehoboth's, just because I Googled and it popped up. It basically says in plain English what I've always heard other towns
Yeah.
do on that. If you want to put something like that up on the website to be more clear,
Yes, I think we should clarify that.
They took a picture.
and there's cones in it, so.
Those are 6-foot witches in orange hats standing in the potholes, in case you were wondering.
Wow.
Huh? This-
I mean, serious, I mean, I wouldn't.
I think it is,
You
I
have to
think it is the
drive
policy that if it is reported and it is repaired within
24 hours.
24 hours, then
Yeah, and it was, Mary?
it is.
Well, I have Tom Galvin saying that it's marked with the
Yeah.
cones at least. I
Yeah.
Yeah.
have not heard back from Keith if it was repaired
I
within
think
that time. with
Then you
cold
should
patch.
respond that's our policy.
Okay. Do
Okay?
you want something like that up on the web?
The
No.
policy?
Doesn't matter.
Not
No.
yes? No. Okay.
No.
Okay.
Are we voting on that? Or not?
No.
We don't need to vote on it.
Nope.
No.
We're just talking about how to respond to it. Okay, we have a Buckley Richardson request for,
Public records related to charter communications, which I haven't started going through yet. That letter is dated the 23rd, but it actually was received here the 29th.
okay,
We have it 28th. There is no 29th.
Who is this? Is this a company?
It's a law firm.
request for documents, communications with Charter Communications Entertainment through any and all its agents. From calendar year 2011 through the present concerning the tornado outbreak Massachusetts experienced on June 1st, 2011. Hurricane Irene, which reached Massachusetts on August 28th, 2011. The snowstorm Massachusetts experienced beginning on October 29th, 2011. And Hurricane Sandy, which reached Massachusetts on October 29th. We probably do not have a lot, I wouldn't think, but, yeah.
Just
Who is asking for that and for why?
public they don't need to state
Yeah.
why, but there's a public records request, so you would compile what you have
Oh.
and you'd give them an estimate
Yeah.
before you actually execute
Yeah.
it, but
Okay.
it's not much. I
Yeah.
just wanted to show it to you, so start
Yeah.
doing it.
Yeah, I mean,
So it's just a
It's not
request
an
for
option.
information?
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
it's not an option, but again, I don't think we're gonna find that there's much.
The
Okay.
only thing we
Yeah.
had was that ice storm.
I'm not asking about that.
Yeah.
That was back in 2008, I
Yeah.
think.
December '08.
Yeah. Okay. Unless we have anything else, that gets us into miscellaneous correspondence.
So what are we on snow and salt overtime?
Very first thing in that folder.
Just like to hear the ongoing.
We're over by $25,443.18 on snow and salt expenses, and we are over by $7,000.92, and this is as of 3/2/15 on overtime wages.
Okay.
Okay?
What about Allstate Insurance? What's that letter regarding a motor vehicle accident? Number E?
That
Or letter
was the
E?
ambulance
Ambulance?
versus a car in Worcester accident, and they're saying that the town is responsible. That's the other driver's company, Allstate. So I sent that to Maya.
Okay.
Okay.
What's property loss from the March?
That company reported water damage to 2 different people's homes in town. And it was addressed to the Board of Selectmen, so I put it in there, but they're just notifying, it's really to the Board of Health and the building inspector, but they also addressed it to the Selectmen, so I'm copying you on it. But the Board of Health and the building inspector have both of those.
Okay. Anything else?
I had sent you, emailed you to something we talked about at the last meeting.
Yeah, I didn't
Just
wanna really put that,
informational,
yeah,
I
yeah,
think.
and I may wanna talk to a couple people myself before we get it on, because, I wanna
Yeah.
be constructive about this, and
Sure.
I wanna, okay?
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be around next week, because Joni and Hannah are going off, so that I'll have a chance to talk to some people next week.
Okay. I think, looking at it, it's just lack of communication is the
Yeah.
big issue. And,
Yeah, yeah, I just,
Because it was ironic that,
before I
They
tip a
seem to
bucket, I
be-
like to have a sense of what's in it,
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I'd
Well,
be,
I mean,
Well, I think some of that is wrong too. You could check the records on a couple of those things.
mhm. Well, that's what we gotta talk about.
yeah.
I simply took notes,
So let's,
but I wanted us to talk about it so that
yeah, let's.
we won't go out in different directions. I've
No,
held
no, no.
back.
I may want to ask some people some questions. I wouldn't take any
Okay.
action on this unless we did it as a board. I
Yeah.
might suggest perhaps considering putting it on the agenda for 2 weeks from tonight.
Okay.
Because I'll be around
Sure.
the following week, and then, but let's tentatively,
Yeah.
we'll
Are you
get a
gone
space.
are you gone next week?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I'm here. As a matter, no, I'm, Joni and Hannah are away. I'm taking a couple of vacation.
You must be in charge of the dog.
I am partly in charge of the dog, partly,
They bit you lately?
no, not lately.
Bring the dog here. I can watch it during the meeting.
Oh, no. And dogs are not allowed in this
Ah.
building.
It's a service dog.
Trying. Yes.
Sure. Stop.
Stress.
What service does it provide?
Bites taxpayers, That's the only service that one does. Yeah, so anyway, it's just that I'll be
Yeah.
around town. I think I'm gonna be working sort of half days and mostly from home, so.
Sure.
Because it's rare that I have that kind of chance to have a cup of coffee with someone and chat with them,
Is your commute any better?
If,
I've been
now,
driving.
if you wanna talk to the men, that's all right. If it's a superintendent, then we should all talk at once.
You're all welcome to talk to them.
Either, or I would go talk to one, but I held off because I thought that was that decision.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Yeah. All right, anything else? right, hearing nothing else, I would move to, I would accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
That range, so you don't end up all of a sudden with 50%